In a place known for being one of the best outdoor cities and mountain biking cities in the US and maybe the world, how does Boulder, Colorado actually stack up? That's the question I'm asking today. First, I want to let you know I don't live in Boulder, but I have visited Boulder a bunch. And I can attest to the fact that the infrastructure there is really, really good. The mountain biking is epic, and you just have so many opportunities to get um, I mean, different outdoor activities too. It just doesn't stop at biking. With that being said, though, I don't think anything can replace speaking to someone who lives and is on the ground there. In which case, if that might be you, would love to potentially interview you. Just go down to the description below and fill out the survey link. Regardless, I hope to spend more time in Boulder soon because it is epic there. So this is kind of Boulder proper here too, North Boulder here. You can see some like main drags throughout the city. There seems to be kind of equal dispersion of like at least urban cycling here as far as where people are going. There's no area where like people are really grouped. You can see this little tiny grouping. This must be that's Valmont Bike Park. I know that. You can tell it's just a super. Well, you'll see. We've got a bunch of biking up here. You can see. Let's zoom out a little bit. A ton of mountain biking here, as you can see by all the switchbacks, mountain biking. And this is interesting. Okay, let's look at the walkscore.com bike score. They give it a 95, which they consider Boulder to be a biker's paradise. Again, take every number with a grain of salt and make sure that if you're going to live somewhere or spend time, you put yourself in the right position. And as you can see, like there's this rail trail, the 7-mile Boulder Creek path, and then the this path that goes through town here. Well, I guess this whole thing is the Boulder Creek path. Being like centrally located to something like this is really going to help you in navigating the city. Because I know as far as the premium type of bike infrastructure is car free, and these trails here you see on traillink.com are pretty much fully car free, apart from some stops that you're going to have to make to cross streets. You can see like you've almost got dedicated bike path all the way up to Longmont, and once you get down to this trail, pretty much all the way into Broomfield, Westminster, and Denver, which is pretty epic. This Denver area is packed with rail trails. It's really, really sweet. One of the issues, though, I recently looked into Denver, and Denver doesn't have a ton of mountain biking that's like bikeable from the city. It's kind of necessary to drive, honestly, to get to a bunch of the spots from what I've seen on the maps. But Boulder is really close to some trails. Not the closest I've ever seen, but you're definitely able to bike to them. I know one of my favorite YouTubers, Ryan Van Duzer, who I've actually had the pleasure of speaking with before. He bikes everywhere in Boulder, and he bikes to the mountain bike trails. He's really dedicated, though, I'll be honest. But so you got Valmont Bike Park, which is really kind of just a few miles from like the main part of town. You can definitely get there via these bike paths. You can see it's very dense. This is more of like a training area, as well as there's some really well built like jumps and berms and things of that nature. Whereas like the more classical riding, you're going to get at a place like Batasso Preserve, which let's see how far Batasso Preserve is. That's where Ryan, there's actually a 16-mile Super Batasso. Ryan Van Duzer recommended I go there to get some Flowy Trails in Boulder. But when I went, they were closed to bikes. Like they were closed on Wednesdays and Saturdays to bikes, which is kind of unfortunate. But so it's 6.6 miles to get out there. And I will tell you, biking from there, you're going uphill, but then going back, you're going downhill. So you can definitely bike there and then ride. A drive, though, it's only 17 minutes. Not bad at all. And then as far as more mountain biking, you've got, I actually rode here when I was there a few weeks ago, North Boulder Loop. I believe, is that where I biked? I biked around Boulder Reservoir, and did this loop here. This was really fun. This is a 8-mile loop. Let's see how far of a bike ride it is to get from like Boulder proper to it. About 6.8 miles, okay? But I think it's a bit of a flatter bike. There's still some elevation, but you're going more across and north. So the mountains in Colorado, the Front Range, they go straight down here basically. Where you are in Boulder actually starts to really, it's still hilly, but flatten out when you compare it to the mountains that are just west. And if you look at like eastern Colorado, it's like, let's look at the terrain here. You can see like you're just backed up right here against the mountains, which is one of the appeals of Boulder. Whereas like Denver, you're really in the flats here and you're not butted up. Like Golden is butted up against the mountains, but Boulder is really butted up against the mountains. You got CU Boulder there as well. So yeah, pretty intriguing. Bike packing, off-road bike tours. There is a loop on bikepacking.com called the Boulder Weekend Loop, which is 77.5 miles. Thank you, Chris Langiger, for creating this from bicyclewanderlust.com. Let's look at some photos and you'll get an idea of kind of what some of the terrain is like once you get into the mountains in Boulder. Oh, I think this is the REI. I think I just bought that tent. I got an REI quarter dome for bike touring and bike packing. Beautiful. Yeah. Boulder, by the way, I mean, they've got some great breweries. They're known for their outdoor culture. And I was there a few weeks ago, like I said, and it's just amazing to see just how stoked people are about the outdoors there. And I think some people think Boulder is almost like to an annoying level of outdoorsiness, where like the people, the culture there is just like almost corny to some extent. But I love it, being that I love the outdoors. So it's all, kind of your preferences. Yeah, as far as if we zoom out and look at some other bike packing loops in the area, I have to find Colorado again. I'm getting really good at this map thing because I basically just look at maps all the time. You go from Denver. Oh, sorry. There's a path called the Colorado Trail, if you've ever heard of it, 528 miles from Denver to Durango, essentially. And that one is pretty legendary. And then you've got the Great Divide mountain bike route. And there are so many other routes that you could turn because like you've got so much dispersed camping here, Arapahoe National Forest. You got a culture of camping, and I'll show you the gravel roads here. Like, look at all these gravel roads that you can turn into potential bike routes and bike packing routes. Like, there's this massive loop here, Netherland, 116 miles. You got options. Definitely recommend checking out gravelmaps.com. As far as bike touring, there is a path or a route that goes almost through Boulder, through Netherland, and it is the legendary Great Park South, which is 695 miles. Takes you through Rocky Mountain National Park. The views there are just absolutely, I'm sure, epic, through Idaho Springs, the Keystone, and that can loop you up with all of these trails. The Great Divide mountain bike route, Trans-America Trail. So you just know, I mean, and most of these go through Frisco, Colorado. You just know there's going to be a culture surrounding bike touring and bike packing in those areas. So as far as Boulder, nothing that goes directly through it. And I will be honest, like if you're going east, Colorado is, it's very dry. You don't have a lot of trees, especially in the eastern part. Like I think you have more in the mountains, really. But the drive out around here is just like pretty bare, and it's a look of its own, and it's a beauty of its own. But the most interesting stuff in Colorado really is west. Once you start going west of Boulder. As far as weather, or let's look at bike shops first. You're gonna have no shortage of bike shops. I don't even want to I'm almost jealous. I don't know why I'm saying jealous. I'm actually right now I'm in Bentonville, Arkansas, and I'm literally underneath my feet is a bike shop right now. I'm at a co-working space, an office space, but literally underneath my feet is a full service mountain bike shop. And there's like 7 others in this town. Plenty of help to go around, but you got plenty of shops in Boulder. One of my favorites though was, it's really not, it's a used outdoor gear shop in Boulder. I don't know if they do bike service, but I think if you're in Boulder, you should definitely check. It's called Boulder Sports Recycler. You should definitely check it out. It's like in North Boulder, and they have a bunch of used gear, which I think it's always good to recycle gear if at all possible. As far as the climate goes, the average in Boulder is a 7.1 year round. Summer, let's look at all the months that are above a 7. May, 8.3, June, July, August, September, October. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Only 6 months above a 7 in comfort level. The rest are going to be a bit colder, but April's a 6.9, very close. I mean, if you love winter weather sports as well and getting outside in the winter, it's definitely possible. You're going to have to dress for it. You get 245 sunny days per year in Boulder, which is a really unique thing about Colorado is there's like so much sun and it's very intense. So I will say, you got to wear your sunscreen even in the winter. It is very intense. So Boulder, if culturally known as one of the most outdoorsy places in America and in maybe the world. The views there are beautiful. There's a ton of biking opportunities, and this city is on board with bike infrastructure. They're getting better and better and better. And from what I've heard, you can for sure live your day-to-day life on your bike fairly easily there. They've got a bunch of trails that go underground in some areas to avoid roads. Like they're doing their part. As far as the best I've ever seen for mountain biking or best I've ever seen for bike infrastructure, I would say no. But there's no perfect place, I'll be honest. So that being said, definitely take a deeper dive into Boulder yourself. And note, again, I don't live in Boulder, so I don't have firsthand knowledge of what it's like to bike there other than times I've visited there. So if you do live there and bike there a ton, I'd love to interview you and bring you on the show to bring your expertise to the world. And regardless, I've got a bunch more videos just like this one on the channel. Would love a subscription from you if you care about bike infrastructure, bike touring, just living your life on a bike. So thanks for watching this video to the end. Have a great day.